All right, so I'm back at it. I started this week, last couple of days, been starting to adapt this door, match it up to the other door. I've got the plates and everything matched up, and I'm in the process of just painting those plates before I put them back on. Got one over here being painted up, and this one over here has already been painted. This is the I permanently attached the handle. I found out this is the way to go. I was going to install these separately with screws or something. Well, no need to. Put the whole thing all in one piece. You know, it's easier to feed the rods in also. When you have the plate slightly off, you can put the rod in and then snap this retainer on. And it works pretty good that way. And then put the plate on and everything's in place. Anyway, so like I said, I'm in the process of modifying the rods. This is the lock rod over here. I had to stop yesterday. I ran out of welding wire. Got that situation handled, so I'm back to it. But in the meantime, while I'm waiting for the paint to dry and things like that, I've decided to go ahead and start on finishing out the door panels. And because why not? I'm in the neighborhood now. I can see where everything's kind of heading in the direction. One of the things I had to do was using, this is out of the El Camino. This top piece of aluminum here is the top of the door panel out of the El Camino. I have to use that in order to determine where the top ledge is, and I realized from looking at the Buick out there that this sits a whole lot higher because it sits on top of this rubber. So I had to temporary install just the top portions here of the new door seals over here so that I could set that on top. And it's real tricky how this is all going to work together and how I'm going to be able to fasten things together. So it's real slow going right now, developing out this first panel. It'll be real tricky here because this is a non-upholstered panel. I will be upholstering it because there's no way to blend this molded plastic to whatever I'm going to do. In other words, I can't just build a panel and then mud it together with Bondo or something like that because it'll crack. There's nothing that I can do about that. So I'm going to have to upholster over the whole thing. So again, I've got to figure out, you know, all these panels, these segments of these panels are put together with, I don't know if I can show you this or not. What do I got here? Oh yeah, I got something. Basically, after they upholster them, like this panel right here, they have these studs sticking through. They put it together and they take a heat gun or some kind of a heating device, melt them down. So they're not glued to each other because glue doesn't stick to the stuff they decided to use to make these panels out of. And the same with modern cars. All the segments are put together with like a welded situation where they're welding the plastic by melting it through the holes. So it doesn't leave you any way to really reattach anything. So I'm making my top panels out of steel, so I have to make sure I provide for a way to attach it to the lower panel so that the whole thing goes on in one piece and it's not a flimsy mess of parts and panels and pieces. Anyway, that's where I'm at, developing this pattern out while I'm finishing out that other mechanism on that side over there. All right, I've been working on developing this pattern for this upper portion of the door panel, and I got to looking around, and something's been bothering me, or not bothering me, I've just been wondering about how I'm going to mount the seat belts for this setup in here, and utilizing obviously the Camaro belts that came out of the car, because I have them and they're perfectly good and operational. Unfortunately, this is mounted in the ceiling of the Camaro, which I didn't give any thought to. Those are the mount positions. This is upside down. These are the T-tops in this area here, and then that's the hatchback section. So this is across that middle band on the roof, and that's where they're mounted behind you on the seat. So the problem with that is the proper location for that in this car would be outside here. And that's how far back and up they are. So that's not going to work. And I tried seeing if I could relocate them to another location. Problem is the way the ratchet works in this, it must be mounted horizontally in order for the ratchet to actuate properly in a situation with a collision. So if you mount it this way or you tilt it in the wrong direction, the ratchet will not activate, or the ratchet will activate to the point where you can't pull the belt out and get in the seat. So that's not going to work. So I thought, well, let me take a look at the back seat belts, see what they look like, because they mount to the top of the package tray. And all I had to do really is, because these do not hook into a SRS system, neither do the front belts, being it's a 99. Just a very simple belt that when it buckles, it turns the light on or off on the dashboard for the seatbelt indicator. All I had to do was match this latch opening here, and that's the same for the front to the back, so that would work, except for the fact that, again, it has to be lined up at a certain location relative to the shoulder height, and there's just not enough room back here. The window, again, is in the way of the El Camino, and it would be high up, and it would be, like I said, in this area here, so that's not going to work. And then I was worried about the length of the belt relative to, how much is going to spool out. Is that going to be enough for the front seat? Anyway, so I got to thinking, and I scavenged some, well, I didn't scavenge when I built my car, my Daytona, it was a 4-door car, but the belts were blown, the airbags were blown. And what that means is that these little ball bearings, basically, when the explosive charge goes off in this canal here, which part of it's missing right now, those ball bearings roll down and they lock the belt in, so that it pulls you back into the seat positively, away from the airbag deployment. At any rate, these are vertically mounted in the Charger in the B pillar, so this would be an ideal setup because it's meant to go vertically, and that's the same as what the El Camino had. I just wasn't confident after I pulled the bearings out. This thing works, like a regular seat belt. It no longer is hung up, but I don't have confidence that it's properly rebuilt. I pulled it apart, put it back together without the ball bearings in it. But I'm not so sure that it'll operate as intended. So rather than gamble, I went ahead and I purchased a generic setup that is meant to bolt up vertically. I looked at the El Camino belts, which are blue. Well, it's not too big of a problem. I can spray them with a fabric spray to get them to gray. But they're kind of worn out, and it's an old-fashioned system, and it has this weird cam system that goes through the door jamb and stuff, which I already eliminate the hole for that. And the ones that I have are broken. I'd have to get a bias set, and it's just an inferior setup. So I went ahead and I just bought a newer generic version. I hate to give up on something like that since I have so many of these sets of seat belts from different projects laying around here, and nothing that I had would work. Interestingly enough, though, the Dodge, I guess they started standardizing these seat belts, but this is out of a 2006 Dodge Charger, and this latch matches the Camaro latch, so this is apparently a standard setup now. Anyway, long rambling speech, but to get back on the door panels and put this stuff away for now. Okay, a little bit of metal shaping here to get this upper panel kind of in position. It has to hook around the backside here to mimic the El Camino tops portion. That's this piece here. And then it has to kind of roll in right here so that it has like this pleated look to it once it's covered. You can see a series of small breaks in order to get this tight radius. Did them on the sheet metal brake. They'll be ground down, and hopefully, depending on whether I probably will put a thin, probably 1/8 of an inch of foam on that before I cover it with vinyl. I don't want to get too much of a buildup. And then it had to be rolled around the corner here in order to come in and meet the depth that's here. It's a little tougher than a flat card would be. Of course, the flat card normally ends on this panel here, and then it just squeezes in between the door and the jamb. But this one here, being that it has so much depth to it, I had to create a situation where it's going to miss this opening over here. Anyway, so that's kind of what it's looking like. I have to develop this pattern here now. It's kind of backwards because this one here fits underneath this panel. So I have to get this panel up here made and kind of fish it underneath here and get it to all work together, which is a compound curve over the top here. And then, yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for sure. It's got a curve in this direction a little bit. This one here subtly curves in this direction here, as you can see. You know, this gap hopefully be taken up by the foam and by the vinyl covering. I'll probably do this in a light gray. The same with this upper section, do it in a light gray and leave this all charcoal below. Anyway, it's getting harder to find upholstery fabric locally in a store where you can just take a sample in and look at it and compare. And if you do it over the internet, it's always a gamble as to whether or not it's going to be the proper material as far as how it's going to stretch over the shapes. It's also going to be a gamble as to, you know, if the pattern is going to, or the color, forget it. You know, you're really putting a gamble out there as far as the color match is concerned. So sometimes it's just better to just go with a color that's in the family. It's gray, but a light gray that's definitely not trying to match this. The closer you try to get to matching something, that's when your eye starts to pick up how there's a little funny business going, like the uncanny valley, if you will. Anyway, back to it. Okay, so I finished making this panel and attached it to extend this panel right here by putting a steel mending plate. Now this is a different thickness than this, so what I did was this mending plate, I ran it through the stepper so that it would basically fit behind there, and then it stepped out a little bit to make up the difference, so that when this piece of sheet metal went on, that it's flushed out like this. And did my best to round it over here so that it blended into the side of the door over here. The main thing that was difficult was having to roll this over and maintain a gap here, because I intend to wrap this with vinyl and then this wood vinyl. So it means that I have to have enough room between these two panels here. In order that I could align it, I made up a temporary brace. Went on the top side here, that screwed through the top. You can see I've got a couple of screw holes here because this wanted to shift down and it didn't want to stay straight. So before I finished attaching this piece to that piece, in order to make sure it was straight across, I basically just screwed down through the metal in 4 locations here to make sure it was nice and straight. And now I've got to get the whole mess back off the car and figure out how I'm going to add fasteners that will fasten this lower panel to the upper panel over on this side over here. Once it's done, like I said, my biggest challenge with these door panels when I try to do these extensions is trying to find some kind of glue that'll stick to this stuff, which I haven't found any yet. Tried them all. The stuff is just impervious to anything but heat. These, like I said, these pieces are melted together at the factory. They don't use glues. Although I do see some stuff stuck down with some adhesive. The backer materials, the sound deadener, is stuck down pretty good. But I think that's hot glue. But even hot glue, when it cools down, it peels right off of this plastic. But anyways, another long rambling speech, and I'm just gonna get on to the next step. Okay, so I'm in the process of trying to stabilize this panel. Now that I have these other panels finished up, I put this metal piece back up on the top there to lock these 2 steel pieces together to keep them aligned while I'm doing this, keep everything from shuffling around. It's a little bit of a dance. I've also got a straight edge over here clamped so that this all stays in line to where it's going to be when it's on the door itself. I've added a little counter flange under here so that I could screw through the plastic into that counter flange and attach this upper metal piece to the plastic. As I said, it was a real pain to try and figure out how to attach some of this stuff. Usually there's no glues that really work that I found anyway. I have to use mechanical methods to be assured that it won't come apart. One area here where I was having a little bit of trouble figuring out what to do is I've got these where I ground off. In other words, there was a little plastic stop here that was melted over that looks similar to this, that held this together in this area right here. As you can see, here's another one. This is held together with this that holds the armrest on. So anyway, what I've done here is I've taken some hot glue and I've drilled some holes through the sides of these little towers, so that when I put the hot glue in and fill up this little tower, it oozes out through the sides and creates kind of a locking plug that stays in there of the hot glue. And once this hardens up sufficiently, I'll have something that I could put these little self-tapping tech screws into. Their little half-inch screws. But in order for that to work, first I cut a little bit too much off of this door panel. I'm going to have to reintroduce a flange that will enable me to mechanically fasten it with those screws. Anyway, that's what I'm up to right now. Just keep moving along with this one door panel and kind of solve all these problems before I go messing around with the other side. All right, I had this on here and did some tweaking here and there, and added some flanges and filled in some back panels on the door itself so that the transition looked right. I got one in the front. I haven't worked the one in the front completely yet, ground it down, but making up the difference for the size of the door relative to the size of the Camino panel and relative to the way it fits into this car with the dashboard. Anyway, had to do a little bit of Bondo work here, just kind of blend this in to this panel here. A little bit of mud work here because I had to rework this seam, get the seam big enough so that material will go between there. And yeah, that's about it. So got to pull it back off and see if I remember how to cover this stuff. Anyway, I'm going to move on from here. Okay, so I'm in the process of covering these pieces with vinyl. This top piece here, this is the front piece where the door handle is. I've got this one pretty well covered and contacted on there using this, it's for vinyl tops and upholstery. This Willwood contact adhesive, Lowndale top and HAR solvent type spray grade. Had to sacrifice one of my old siphon guns to do this. I usually use a cheap gun, but the one I have is all seized up. So anyway, that's another story. In addition to that, I'm taking this stuff here, Color Coat by Sem, and using this graphite to reinvigorate the existing panel, the lower panel, the armrest and everything. That works pretty good, this stuff. It really makes for a nice looking piece, and it matches what's already in the car, so it brings it up to snuff. Anyway, I'm just going to keep on going with this and then put it all back together once I get everything covered. All right, so this is kind of the final product here. The combination of the 99 Camino Z-28 lower panel and homemade upper panel to blend into the El Camino. As you can see in the final part, I put the brand new window whisker on here, which worked really nice to tie both of these upper panels together. So that looks good. At any rate, it's taken me about 6 days to get to this point. So even though it's only Wednesday, I'm going to end the video here because the next part of the video, probably following out until next Friday or the end of next week, is going to be doing the same thing over again on the other side. So there's no need to drag you through that whole process again. So this is going to be the end of the video for this week. I'd like everybody to know that I appreciate them watching and commenting, and I appreciate you following along, and I will see you on the next one.